The monitoring station floated quietly in the darkness between star systems, its sensors constantly scanning the void for signals from across the galaxy. Technician Yuna sat at her workstation, sipping cold coffee and reviewing the endless stream of data that flowed through the Galactic Council's communication networks. Most of it was routine: cargo manifests, mining reports, tourist shuttle schedules. Nothing that would disturb her peaceful night shift. She almost missed it. A faint blip on her screen, barely visible among the background noise of space. Yuna frowned and adjusted her equipment, thinking it might be interference from a nearby pulsar. But as the signal became clearer, her coffee cup slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. It was a distress call. It's an ancient one. This is Earth calling any listening civilization. The voice crackled through her speakers, distorted by decades of travel through space. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. Billions of our people are dead. Our cities are burning. If anyone receives this message, please send help. We don't know how much longer we can hold out. Yuna's hands trembled as she recorded the transmission. The signal was old, so old that it had been traveling through space for nearly 40 years. It came from a star system that every spacefaring species avoided, a place marked with warning, beacons and labeled as a death world in all navigation. Charts.Earth, the third planet of the Sol system. She had heard stories about death worlds. Planets so dangerous that even the thought of landing on them made experienced pilots nervous. Crushing gravity, poisonous atmosphere, extreme temperatures, deadly radiation. Worlds where evolution had gone mad, creating creatures that could kill with a single touch. No civilized species had ever successfully colonized a death world. The few that had tried were never heard from again. Yuna quickly called her supervisor, an elderly Zenthari named B. Kuhn, who had been monitoring deep space signals for over 2 centuries. His 4 eyes widened as he listened to the transmission, his scaly skin changing color from blue to pale green, a sign of deep concern among his people. "Play it again," he whispered. They listened to the desperate message 3 more times. The voice belonged to a male, speaking in a language that their computers identified as English, apparently one of many languages used by the species that called themselves humans. The audio quality was poor, but the emotion was clear: fear, desperation, and something else. A stubborn determination that surprised both listeners. 43 years, by Kuhn calculated, checking the transmission's trajectory. This signal has been traveling for 43 years. Should we report it to the council? Yuna asked. But Kuhn was quiet for a long moment, his clawed fingers tapping against his workstation. What would be the point? Look at the time stamp. This battle, whatever it was, ended decades ago. These humans are certainly dead by now. But what if they're not? Yuna persisted. What if some survived? Impossible. This transmission mentions billions dead, cities burning, an overwhelming enemy force. Even if a few humans somehow escaped the initial attack, no species has ever survived on a death world for more than a few generations. The planet itself would have killed them eventually. Still, something about the message bothered by Kuhn. He had heard thousands of distress calls during his career, but this one was different. Most species, when faced with extinction, begged for mercy or offered treasure in exchange for rescue. These humans had done neither. Their message was simple, direct, almost businesslike. They were asking for help, but there was no panic in the voice, no promises of reward. Just a calm request for assistance from anyone who might be listening. The Galactic Council has strict protocols about investigating death worlds. Kuhn reminded Yuna. Too dangerous. It's too expensive. No profitable resources to justify the risk. But this is different, Yuna argued. This is a species that actually developed interstellar communication while living on a Class 12 death world. That's never happened before. Think about what we could learn from studying their remains. Kuhn's skin shifted to a thoughtful purple color. She had a point. The scientific value alone might be worth the risk of a small expedition. And if they could recover any of the humans' technology, the council would be very interested indeed. Very? Well, he decided. I'll forward this to the exploration committee, but don't get your hopes up. Even if they approve a mission, all we'll find is a dead world and some interesting fossils. As Una prepared the official report, she listened to the transmission one more time. Something in the human's voice made her pause. Beneath the fear and desperation, she heard something that made her spine tingle. It was subtle, almost hidden, but unmistakable once she noticed it. The human wasn't just asking for help. He was also making a promise that his species would remember whoever answered their call, and that they would not forget those who ignored it. 40-3 years later, that promise was about to be tested. Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Council survey. Ship Peaceful Dawn, staring at the impossible sight before him. The Sol system was supposed to be dead. Every calculation, every computer model, every piece of scientific evidence suggested that the death world called Earth should have been a lifeless rock by now. Instead, his sensors showed a thriving civilization. Massive. Metal structures orbited the blue and green planet, some larger than entire cities. Ships moved between them with precise coordination, their sleek designs unlike anything in the Council's databases. Energy readings suggested weapon systems that could crack moons in half. "Captain," his communications officer Seonho called out, his voice tight with nervousness. "We're being scanned. It's multiple sources. They know we're here." "Shields up," Jinwoo ordered, though he doubted their defensive systems would matter against whatever technology these humans possessed. "Prepare a standard first contact message." Before Seonho could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered to life. A human face appeared, male with dark hair and calm brown eyes that seemed to look directly at each council member. He wore a simple blue uniform with strange symbols on the collar. "Unknown vessels," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "You have entered Earth Defense Force protected space. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Jinwoo's crew exchanged shocked glances. Not only were these humans alive, but they had learned the Council's primary language. How long had they been watching galactic civilization? "This is Captain Jinwoo of the Galactic Council exploration vessel Peaceful Dawn," he replied carefully. "We received your distress signal and came to offer assistance." The human's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, perhaps, or irony. "I am Captain Minho of the Earth's Defense Force. Your response to our distress call is appreciated." "Captain Jinwoo, though I'm afraid you're approximately 43 years late." "Late," Jinwoo's science officer Haesung whispered. "They're still alive after 43 years on a death world." Captain Minho seemed to hear the whispered comment. "You've noticed our planet's classification." "Yes, Earth is what you call a death world. We call it home." Through the bridge windows, Jinwoo watched as sleek warships emerged from behind asteroids and orbital platforms. They had been completely hidden from sensors until now. Each vessel was twice the size of his flagship, bristling with weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "How many ships do you have?" Jinwoo asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Enough," Minho replied simply. "Would you like to come aboard our station? I think there are some things we should discuss." Jinwoo looked at his crew. They were all staring at him with wide eyes, clearly terrified. But as a council officer, he had a duty to establish proper diplomatic relations with any new species they encountered. "We would be honored," he said, an hour later.
Oh.
Jinwoo found himself in a shuttle, heading toward the largest orbital structure. As they approached, he realized it wasn't just a space station, it was a fortress. Weapon emplacements tracked there. Movement. And the docking bay was filled with fighter craft that looked like they could tear his ship apart in seconds. The artificial gravity inside the station was crushing. Jinwoo's legs shook as he tried to walk, and two of his crew members collapsed completely. Human attendants quickly provided mobility assistance, but Jinwoo noticed they moved normally in the heavy gravity that was crippling his people. "Captain." Minho met them in a conference room that was surprisingly comfortable, though the furniture was clearly designed for much stronger beings. He was accompanied by a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes who introduced herself as Dr. Yoonji. "You're wondering about our enemy," Dr. Yoonji said without preamble. "The ones who attacked us 43 years ago, were they the Krex Raiders?" Jinwoo asked. "The Void Hunters? We know of several aggressive species that the Vrek swarm, Minho interrupted, bioships, hive mind. They consumed everything in their path, entire star systems, billions of lives. They had been expanding across this galaxy for thousands of years. Jinwoo felt his blood freeze. The Vex swarm was a nightmare from the Council's darkest records. Ancient files spoke of entire civilizations being devoured, of planets stripped bare of all life. The swarm had vanished centuries ago, and most council members believed they had simply moved on to other galaxies. Impossible, Haisung stammered. No species has ever survived contact with the Vrek swarm. They're unstoppable. Dr. Yunji activated a holographic display. It showed Earth as it had been 43 years ago, a beautiful blue world, surrounded by orbital installations and defensive platforms. Then came the swarm. Massive biological ships that looked like infected organs, pouring out of hyperspace in numbers that darkened the sky. They consumed our outer colonies first, Dr. Yunji explained. 14 worlds, gone in 6 months. 28 billion people. The hologram showed the desperate battle for Earth itself. Human ships diving into the swarm formations, taking terrible damage, but refusing to retreat. Ground forces fighting in conditions that would kill most species instantly. How did you survive? Jinwoo whispered. Captain Minho leaned forward, his calm expression never changing. We didn't just survive, Captain. We learned. And then we made sure the Vrek swarm would never threaten anyone again. The conference room fell silent.
Outside.
The windows, Earth continued its slow rotation, peaceful and beautiful. But Jinwoo was beginning to understand that appearances could be very deceiving. Captain Jinwoo's hands shook as he watched the holographic battle footage. Images showed something that should have been impossible. Humans fighting the legendary Vrek swarm and actually winning battles. Not just surviving, but pushing back against an enemy that had consumed entire star systems. This cannot be real, his science officer, Haisung whispered. The Vrek's bioships are living weapons. They adapt to any attack within minutes. No species has ever defeated them in direct combat. Dr. Yunji paused the display, freezing it on an image of a human warship ramming directly into a Vrek's creature the size of a small moon. The ship's hull was melting from the bioship's acid, but its weapons continued firing even as it died. You're right about their adaptation abilities, she said calmly. That's why we had to think differently. Watch this. The hologram shifted to show a new scene. Human soldiers were fighting inside what looked like the digestive system of a massive Vrek's bioship. The environment was so hostile that Jinwoo's equipment registered lethal levels of acid, radiation, and toxic gases. Yet the humans moved through it, wearing only basic protective suits, planting explosives with methodical precision. Impossible, Jinwoo breathed. Those conditions would dissolve most known species in seconds. Most species didn't evolve on Earth, Captain Minho replied. Our world taught us to survive in conditions you consider impossible. Crushing pressure, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures, deadly radiation. These are just Tuesday afternoon for us. The footage continued, showing human tactics that made no sense by Council military standards. Ships that should have retreated instead charged directly into enemy formations. Ground forces advanced into environments that would kill them, but somehow kept fighting. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to enjoy it. Here's what your databases don't tell you about Deathworlds, Dr. Yunji said, bringing up a new display. They don't just kill weak species, they create strong ones. Every day on Earth is a battle for survival. Every creature, every plant, every microorganism is a weapon designed by evolution to kill something else.
Ow.
The hologram showed Earth's surface. Beautiful from space, but terrifying up close. Storms that could level cities, earthquakes that split continents, volcanoes that changed the climate. And the life forms predators with claws like metal blades, plants that could digest living. Flesh, microscopic organisms that could stop a heart in minutes. We learned to fight each other before we learned to make fire, Captain Minho continued. For thousands of years, we waged war on a planetary scale. We developed weapons that could end civilizations, strategies that could break entire armies. We became very, very good at killing things. Jinwoo felt sick. But surely you're not all warriors. What about your civilians, your children? Every human is a warrior, Dr. Yunji replied matter-of-factly. Even our children learn combat skills before they can walk properly. On Earth, being peaceful gets you eaten. The holographic display changed again, showing human population centers. At first glance, they looked like normal cities. But as Jinwoo looked closer, he noticed that every building was also a fortress. Every park contained weapon emplacements. Every school included military training facilities. The Vrex swarm made a critical error in their calculations, Captain Minho said. They saw our distress signal and assumed we were like other civilized species, soft, peaceful, dependent on technology for survival. They expected easy prey. Instead, they found apex predators, Dr. Yunji added, with a cold smile. The battle footage resumed, showing the tide of war slowly turning. Human forces learned to counter every Vrex adaptation, often within hours instead of the months or years it took. Other species, more disturbing, they seemed to anticipate Vrex tactics before the bioships could implement them. How did you predict their movements? Haisung asked, leaning forward despite his fear. We studied our own history, Dr. Yunji replied. Humans have been fighting wars of extinction for millennia. We know every possible strategy, every desperate tactic, every way to turn defeat into victory. The Vrex were following patterns we had seen before. The hologram showed the final battle for Earth's orbital space. Thousands of human ships engaged a Vrex force 10 times their size. The humans fought with a coordination and ruthlessness that made Jinwoo's crew gasp in horror. When their weapons failed, they rammed enemy ships. When their ships were destroyed, the crews continued fighting in spacesuits. When those failed, they used their own bodies as weapons. You must understand, Captain Minho said quietly, the Vrex threatened our children. On Earth, threatening someone's offspring is the one unforgivable crime. It activates instincts that go back millions of years. What instincts? Jinwoo asked, though he dreaded the answer. The instinct to hunt down and completely destroy anything that threatens our young, Dr. Yunji replied. No mercy, no prisoners, no survivors, complete extinction. The holographic display went dark. In the silence that followed, Jinwoo could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. His crew sat frozen, finally understanding what they were dealing with. These weren't victims who had survived against impossible odds. These were predators who had found worthy prey at last. And somewhere in the galaxy, the legendary Vrex swarm had learned what happened when you threaten the children of a Deathworld species. The question now was, what had become of the swarm? The silence in the conference room stretched on until Captain Jinwoo finally found his voice. Words came out as barely a whisper. What happened to the Vrex swarm, Dr. Yunji? And Captain Minho exchanged a look that made Jinwoo's blood run cold. There was something in their eyes, not pride or satisfaction, but a kind of grim finality that spoke of terrible things done in the name of survival. Perhaps Admiral Yuna should answer that question, Captain Minho said quietly. She led the final campaign. A new voice spoke from the doorway. No need to call me, Captain. I'm already here. Admiral Yuna entered the room with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen the worst the universe could offer and emerged victorious. She was smaller than Jinwoo had expected, a woman who barely reached his shoulder, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that seemed to look right through him. But there was something about her presence that made every person in the room sit up straighter. Admiral Dr. Yunji said respectfully, Our guests want to know about the swarm, of course they do. Admiral Yuna took a seat across from the council delegation. Tell me, Captain Jinwoo, what do you know about the Vrex reproductive cycle? They consume organic matter to create new bioships, Jinwoo replied hesitantly. Each ship can spawn dozens of smaller vessels. That's how they spread so quickly across the galaxy. Correct? And where do you think they kept their breeding worlds? Felt a chill run down his spine. You found their home systems? We found everything. Admiral Yuna activated a holographic display that showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked locations scattered across thousands of light years. 47 breeding worlds, 16 major hive clusters, over 300 supply depots. The Vrex had been building their empire for millennia. How did you locate them all? I soon asked. We followed the survivors back to their homes, Admiral Yuna replied matter-of-factly. After we broke their main fleet at Earth, the remaining bioships tried to retreat. We let a few escape, then tracked them using deep space sensor arrays. Captain Minho brought up new footage showing sleek human ships following wounded Vrex bioships through hyperspace. The pursuit lasted for months, with human forces staying just far enough behind to avoid detection while mapping every Vrex stronghold. Took us 3 years to map their entire network, Admiral Yuna continued. Another 2 years to prepare our forces. We knew we would only get one chance. If even a single breeding world survived, the swarm could rebuild within decades.
Oh yeah?
Attacked them all? Jinwoo asked, his voice barely audible. Simultaneously, the holographic display showed human fleets emerging from hyperspace at dozens of locations across the galaxy, all at exactly the same moment. We called it Operation Clean Sweep. Every breeding world, every hive cluster, every supply depot. All hit within a 6-hour window. The footage was horrifying. Human warships descended on Vrex worlds like a plague, their weapons designed specifically to counter bioship defenses. Where the Vrex had expected to find sanctuary, they found death. Arriving from the void, Vrex had never faced coordinated resistance before, Dr. Yunji explained. They were used to fighting one species at a time, consuming each civilization before moving on. They didn't know how to handle a galaxy-wide assault. But surely some escaped, Haisung protested. The galaxy is vast. You couldn't have found them all. Admiral Yuna's expression didn't change. He spent 15 years hunting down the survivors. Every last bioship, every escaped spawn, every hidden colony. We followed them to the edge of the galaxy and beyond. She brought up a final image that made Jinwoo's crew gasp in horror. It was a massive structure orbiting Earth's moon, a monument, built from the twisted metal and calcified remains of thousands of Vrex bioships. The thing stretched for hundreds of kilometers, a graveyard that could be seen from Earth's surface. We kept detailed records, Admiral Yuna said calmly. Every bioship destroyed, every world cleansed, every Vrex eliminated. The final count was just over 47 million individual organisms across 17 different subspecies. You exterminated them completely? Ginwoo whispered.
Us?
They made that choice when they targeted our children, Admiral Yuna replied without emotion. On Earth, we have a saying. You come for our young, we come for your species. The Vrex consumed 14 human worlds. Billions of our people, including millions of children. They made it clear that coexistence was impossible. Captain Minho leaned forward. You have to understand, Admiral Yuna isn't just a military commander. She lost her own daughter in the first Vrex attack on New Sol Colony. This was personal for all of us. But total extinction, ... double quotes, Haisung stammered. A galactic scale. Yes, Admiral Yuna agreed simply. It was efficient, thorough, and necessary. The Vrex were a cancer in the galaxy's body. Cancers must be cut out completely, or they return stronger than before. She stood up, her small frame somehow filling the room with authority. The Vrex swarm is gone, gentlemen. Every last trace of their civilization has been erased. It will never threaten anyone again. As the council delegation sat in stunned silence, Admiral Yuna walked to the window overlooking Earth. The beautiful blue world spun peacefully below, giving no hint of the terrible efficiency of its children. The galaxy's greatest nightmare had met something worse, humanity protecting its young. 6 months after the Council's first contact with Earth, the Galactic Assembly Hall buzzed with heated arguments. Representatives from 300 different species filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a chaotic symphony of fear, anger, and confusion. Ambassador Taeyeon of the Zenthari Coalition stood at the central podium, his forearms gesturing wildly as he spoke. These humans are a clear threat to galactic peace. They have weapons that can destroy entire star systems. Wiped out the Vrex without even trying to negotiate. The Vrex were monsters, shouted back Counselor Yemen from the Outer Rim territories. They consumed my homeworld 3 centuries ago. The humans did what we should have done long ago. In the observer gallery, Captain Jinwoo watched the chaos with growing unease. His report about humanity had split the council down the middle. Half wanted to declare war on Earth immediately, while the other half wanted to offer them alliance and protection on Earth itself. President Soman stood before the United Nations Assembly, her calm voice cutting through similar arguments among human representatives. Behind her, holographic display showed the current state of the galaxy, dozens of species requesting human military assistance, while others massed fleets at their borders in preparation for war. The question before us is simple, President, Soman said. Do we remain isolated on our little blue world, hoping that no other threats emerge from the dark? Or do we take responsibility for protecting the civilizations that cannot protect themselves? General Dong Yun, head of Earth's military forces, stepped forward. Ma'am, our intelligence suggests at least 6 major threats exist beyond the galactic rim. The Vreks were just the beginning. There are things out there that make the swarm look like harmless insects. The holographic display shifted to show deep space sensor readings from the galaxy's edge, strange energy signatures, massive objects, moving between stars, and most disturbing of all, entire star systems going dark without explanation. If we don't act now, General Dong Yun continued, we may face another invasion in 10 or 20 years. Next time, we might not be so lucky. President Soman nodded. Then we are agreed. Humanity will extend its protection to any species that requests it. We will also begin long-range exploration missions to identify and eliminate threats before they reach civilized space. The vote was unanimous. Within months, the galaxy began to change in ways no one had expected. Human military advisors arrived on dozens of worlds, teaching local forces how to fight with the ruthless efficiency that had destroyed the Vreks. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together under human guidance. The Corvin Empire, which had been locked in a brutal war with the Sileni Republic for decades, suddenly signed a peace treaty after human negotiators spent just 3 days with both sides. When asked how they had achieved the impossible, the human diplomat simply said, "We explained what happens to civilizations that waste their strength fighting each other when real threats exist. Trade routes that had been abandoned due to pirate attacks suddenly reopened as human patrol fleets cleared the space lanes with methodical precision. Pirates simply vanished. No demands for surrender, no lengthy trials. It's just swift and permanent removal of the threat." Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the new exploration vessel, Pioneer, watching as his mixed crew prepared for their first mission beyond the galactic rim. Half the crew were humans, while the other half came from a dozen different council species. It had taken months of careful genetic modifications and environmental adjustments to create living spaces that could accommodate everyone. But somehow, they had made it work. "All stations report ready, sir," announced his first officer, Commander Yuna. She was one of the few humans who had volunteered for the deep space missions, leaving behind the safety of Earth's solar system for the unknown dangers of intergalactic space. "Take us out, Commander," Captain Minho ordered as the Pioneer jumped into hyperspace. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human Council joint fleets launched from dozens of star systems, all heading in different directions to map the threats that lurked in the dark between galaxies. Back on Earth, Admiral Yuna reviewed the latest intelligence reports from the exploration fleets. The news was not good. 3 separate alien civilizations had been detected moving toward the Milky Way, each one potentially more dangerous than the Vreks swarm. Her aide Lieutenant Haniel said quietly, "The Galactic Council is requesting an emergency meeting. Some species are having second thoughts about our protection agreement." Admiral Yuna smiled coldly. "Let them have their meeting. But make sure they understand one thing. We didn't ask to become the galaxy's protectors. The universe forced that role on us when it sent the Vreks to kill our children." She turned to look out at the memorial orbiting Earth's moon where the remains of the Vrek swarm served as a permanent reminder of humanity's capabilities. "Tell the Council that Earth's protection comes with a simple promise," she continued. "We will defend any civilization that stands with us against the darkness. But we will also remember any civilization that stands against us, the galaxies." New order was taking shape, built on a foundation of human determination and the smoking ruins of humanity's enemies. Whether that order would bring peace or war depended entirely on the choices other species made in the coming years. The Deathworlds. Children were no longer asking for help. They were offering it, whether the galaxy wanted it or not.